Now, in today's video, we are traveling to the city of Stockholm, which is actually the capital of Sweden, and is in fact the largest urban area in all of the Nordic countries, with the city currently having a population of around 1 million, whilst the metro population is around 2.4 million people. And from an outside look in, Sweden looks like the ideal place to live, even being statistically ranked one of the safest countries in the world. However, what a lot of the people currently living in and outside of Sweden are unaware of is the fact that gang rivalries have plagued the streets of Stockholm, resulting in the gun crime statistics in Stockholm being 25 times higher than other cities like London in 2022, with some even labeling Stockholm Europe's gun murder capital, as gang members would get their hands on guns like AK-47s and use them to attack rivals. The most dangerous of these rivalries, in fact, being the Shottaz and DP or Death Patrol gang feud, which has plagued the streets of a small town inside Stockholm known as Rinkeby, this then resulting in dozens of murders, shootings as well as kidnappings. Before I start this video, however, YouTube says only 5% of you are subscribed, so if you enjoy this content, feel free to subscribe as it helps out the channel. But without further ado, sit back and enjoy this video.
Den här bilen besköts i natt i en skottlossning i Hjulsta norr om Stockholm.
273 shootings and 40 people have been killed so far. He died at the scene, emergency responders have said.
Benny, man mår bra. Du ser, jag är i liv och ingen kan göra det jag gör, så jag kommer fortsätta så länge.
Now, during July 2015, a group of gang members from Rinkeby would be planning to rob a currency exchange, which was located around 23 minutes away. This robbery then took place on the 22nd of July 2015 and was somewhat successful, with the perpetrators running away with around $200,000. Now, following the robbery, it's rumored that the older members who had committed the robbery didn't give any money to a younger member known as Masla, as well as other youngers who were a part of the 3MST gang. These youngers, in fact, were said to have planned out the entire heist. The youngers then began to demand the money from the person who had allegedly carried out the heist, this being a 19-year-old known as Izzy. Izzy denied them the money, resulting in the younger gang members getting angry. A day later, on the 24th of July 2015, a group of these youngers lured 19-year-old Izzy out to a nearby forest, where he was shot dead by the youngers. This then resulting in the two groups of teens from Rinkeby beginning to rival it out, with Izzy's friends who had taken part in the heist, creating the Shottaz gang, whilst the group that sided with the younger members who weren't paid from the heist created the gang which later became Death Patrol. Just a day following the death of Izzy, that same teen, Masla, who had felt betrayed that he wasn't given a cut of the heist, would be sitting in a car with his friends at a gas station when two men approached Masla, shooting several shots toward him, sadly ending in 16-year-old Masla being shot in the head and dying on the scene. A murder investigation was quickly launched, with police suspecting the brothers of Izzy to be the killers, as just under a day earlier, Izzy was gunned down, although it is believed that this was a retaliation for Izzy, who was killed just hours earlier. Following this deadly wave of violence in Rinkeby, prominent gang members who were Masla's friends from the Death Patrol began to become more prominent in Stockholm. These including Shobra, Talang, Musa, and Makalele, who were all close friends of Masla and became prominent under the Death Patrol name. All four of these members being in and out of jail in the months following July 2015, eventually all being out in 2016, subsequently resulting in the beef being quiet for a few months. In 2016, members from the Shottaz gang began to release music, a prime example being Yasin, who released a track titled My Hood, this currently sitting on around 8 million views. He then followed this release up with a track featuring JB, or Jafar Bin, who is affiliated with Shottaz, as well as ZE. Within this song, JB can be heard mentioning the area he was from, this being Rinkeby, which was basically split into two parts that violently beefed one another. This song also sitting on around 8 million views. Shortly after the releases of these tracks, however, the core members of the Death Patrol gang would return from prison, leading to the end of 2016 and 2017 being one of the deadliest times in Rinkeby, which is crazy, as Rinkeby only had a population of around 19,000 in 2016. On the 2nd of December 2016, a member of the Shottaz gang, known as Indiana, as well as his brother, Smokey, who had supposedly come to the area for a few days and wasn't directly involved in the gang politics within Rinkeby. Anyways, the pair would be in a cafe in Rinkeby at around 10 p.m. Two masked Death Patrol members then approached the cafe after noticing Indiana and his brother. The attackers began to let off shots toward both Indiana and Smokey, who both ran into a washing room within the cafe, sadly getting trapped. This being when the attackers got closer and shot both Indiana and Smokey Smokey dead, with it even being believed that Smokey didn't have any affiliation to the Shottaz and DP feud, but was with his brother. An investigation was then launched, although police would fail to turn up conclusive evidence. This double murder has remained unsolved. Rest in peace, both Indiana and Smokey. Just weeks after this double murder, on the 13th of December 2016, members of the Shottaz would retaliate, noticing a core member of the Death Patrol gang known as Musa, shooting him whilst he was sitting in a car. Musa was hit 4 times, however survived as he was actually wearing a bulletproof vest, which is crazy to think about. Police arrived on the scene and discovered the car Musa was in, riddled with bullets, as well as 2 AK-47s. Weeks after this shooting, at the start of 2017, a man rumored to be linked with the Death Patrol gang is shot dead in Rinkeby, with it being believed that he was lying in the street, suffering gunshot wounds to the head. Rest in peace. Now, 2017 was actually the start of the rise of the drill scene coming out of Stockholm, with rappers like Yasin releasing the track, which translates to stack. Within this song, he mentioned that him and others only step when they are strapped, meaning they only go outside whilst being armed with guns for protection. Jafar Bin, who like Yasin also started to affiliate with the Shottaz, released a track titled Cash Machines, with rappers Rigo and A-Key, this track amassing 1.5 million views, really showing that both Jafar Bin and Yasin were the most popping rappers in Stockholm. However, due to them affiliating with the Shottaz, in 2017 they would find themselves in the middle of Rinkeby's deadly gang war. On the 8th of August 2017, rapper Jafar Bin, who had started to associate himself with the Shottaz, would be noticed by 3 members of the Death Patrol gang. Jafar was then run up on by the rivals, and was punched, kicked, and was recorded, with this recording going viral on social media. The Death Patrol members then urinated on Jafar's face, all on recording, which is wild. Within the video, they can be heard shouting disrespectful things toward him. However, luckily Jafar would make it out with his life. It's rumored that following this attack, Yasin would also be run up on by a feared Death Patrol member known as Makalele, being beaten up badly, but luckily also making it out with his life. Following this, however, the police would be closely watching the core members of the Death Patrol, waiting for them to slip up so they could be arrested in an unrelated murder for contract plot that involved multiple Death Patrol members. Now, before I continue, in order to give some context to the sentence received by some of Sweden's most feared gang members, Sweden actually has a different approach to offenders. They believe in changing the prisoners for the better, rather than punishing them, resulting in Sweden having one of the lowest reoffending rates. This factor then means that some people can get sentenced to a few years for murder. In October 2017, however, a group of Death Patrol members were arrested in a suspected case that saw them killing for money. One of the arrested included DP member Shobra, whose DNA was even found on the murder weapon. Despite this, there was still not enough information and evidence to charge the Death Patrol members, leading to them being let free in 2018 after a not guilty trial, leading to the Death Patrol members continuing to wage war on the Shottaz gang. It's rumored that around this time, a younger subset from the Shottaz emerged, this being known as FLG, which is an acronym which translates to filterless guys, and is believed to contain some of the most dangerous younger gang members from the Shottaz. On the 23rd of October 2017, Masla's younger brother, Machiavelli, who was a member of the Death Patrol, would be noticed by a group of Shotters in Rinkeby. The Shottaz then retrieved an automatic rifle, shooting Machiavelli in the chest before fleeing seconds later. Machiavelli was then admitted to hospital, and luckily survived as he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Just a few months following this, on New Year's Eve 2017, a Death Patrol member would be gunned down in Rinkeby, with his attackers fleeing, and still being free even today. This then subsequently resulted in 2018 and 19 being extremely deadly years within the rivalry. On the 31st of December 2017, during the early hours of the morning, a Death Patrol member known as Karar would be sitting in a car garage within Rinkeby. Whilst in the garage, rival Shottaz members would notice him, arming themselves with guns and walking toward him. Karar was then shot 8 times by the rivals, sustaining wounds to the head, with police being called by bystanders. Upon arriving on the scene, emergency services tried to save his life. However, he was sadly pronounced dead. Around this time, the younger members of the Death Patrol began to plot out their revenge for their fallen friend Karar, and just 1 week later, the Death Patrol youngsters would find their revenge. On the 8th of January 2018, just a week following the death of Karar, an alleged Shottaz affiliate known as Hamza, or Peps, would be at a shopping center in Rinkeby. Whilst out, Hamza and a few friends went to a nearby pizza and kebab restaurant, where they planned to stay for a few hours. Whilst in the pizza and kebab restaurant, a younger 16-year-old member aligned with the younger Death Patrol gang would notice Hamza, this younger member being Shaki, who was armed and ready to kill. Shaki then entered the shop before retrieving his gun and shooting Hamza Hamza twice in the neck and head, killing him on the scene. Shaki then fled moments later. An investigation was launched, with police beginning to watch Shaki, who was later arrested after police felt they had enough evidence to convict him. Later in 2018, Shaki was found guilty of the murder and was given 3 years for it, later being released in 2021. Following this murder, in February 2018, a prominent figure within this war began to make music, this being Einar, who released a track titled Problems just a month after the death of Hamza. With this song currently sitting on around 230,000 views, Einar was actually associated with the Darlin Network, an organized crime group based around Darlin within Stockholm. However, he later became affiliated with the Death Patrol when his music career began to really take off. During 2018, the rapper associated with the Shottaz, known as Jafar, would have his phone tapped by police in Sweden, leading to his arrest, as he had confessed to multiple crimes including possession of firearms. Police then found guns belonging to him, as he had seemingly told someone on the phone about the exact location of a stash of guns, eventually being given 4 years. Weeks following this, Shottaz associate and rapper Yasin, Hoy, and another member known as Faye would be stopped by police whilst having guns at a gas station, with the three taking off and fleeing the scene. Yasin managed to escape, throwing his gun away, which police then recovered. Yasin even went on to mock the police for not catching him when they could. However, after releasing a few music videos, Yasin would be arrested and charged for being in possession of firearms when escaping police, eventually going on to be sentenced to a few years for the incident. Now, remember how I said the younger Death Patrol members were the only members really out of jail in 2018? Well, in 2019, Makalele, who was a core member of the original Death Patrol gang, would be out, and often was sliding onto rival Shottaz in Rinkeby. However, in June 2019, Makalele, as well as other Death Patrol members, would find themselves on the other side of the law after killing 2 prominent members of the Shottaz in an entirely different country. In June 2019, 3 members of the Shottaz gang, including Faye, who was actually the manager of Yasin, along with 2 other members known as Gucci and Hoods, would travel to Copenhagen, Denmark. It's rumored the trio went to Denmark to discuss music with local rappers. But upon arriving, however, they learned that they had in fact been set up by Death Patrol member Makalele, as well as other Death Patrol members. The 3 were ambushed in Copenhagen and were shot at by Makalele, who was armed with automatic weapons. Both Faye, as well as Hoods, began to flee the scene, making it a few hundred feet before Faye was shot in the leg, falling to the ground and bleeding out, sadly dying seconds later. Hoods then went on to flee unharmed. The Death Patrol members weren't done there, however, and turned their attention to Gucci, who was shot over 12 times all over the body, sadly also dying on the scene. After killing 2 Shottaz members, the Death Patrol members fled the scene, being seen on CCTV driving away from the scene, leading to another murder investigation being launched. The car used in the double murder was later found.